The final verdict, the diagnosis came on a Tuesday morning, delivered in the sterile confines of Dr. Farouk's office. Farhan Qadir sat motionless in the leather chair, his fingers forming a steeple beneath his chin as the cardiologist explained what the test results meant. Without intervention, the condition gives you approximately 30 days before complete cardiac failure, Dr. Farouk said, his voice carrying the practiced compassion of someone who had delivered terminal news many times before. Given the rarity of your condition and the specific genetic markers involved, finding a suitable donor match within that time frame is unlikely. Farhan nodded, his expression unchanged. At 42, he had built Qadir Tech into a $20 billion empire, revolutionized quantum computing, and appeared on the cover of Forbes 3 times. Death, it seemed, was the only competitor he couldn't outmaneuver. "I understand," he replied, his voice steady. "Send the medical files to my personal server. And I'll need this kept confidential." Outside, Karachi's skyline shimmered beneath the morning sun, the Qadir Tech Tower standing tallest among them, a gleaming monument to his life's work. Farhan watched the city from the back seat of his Maybach, feeling strangely detached from it all. 20 years of relentless ambition had given him everything except for what he suddenly needed most: time. Back at his penthouse, Farhan dismissed his staff indefinitely. His executive assistant, Salma, protested vigorously. "Sir, there's the Singapore merger next week, and the board expects—" "The board will survive without me," Farhan interrupted, signing the necessary paperwork to temporarily transfer operational control to his CFO. "I'm taking a sabbatical." "For how long?" Salma asked, confusion evident in her voice. In 15 years, Farhan had never taken more than 3 consecutive days away from the office. "Indefinitely," he replied simply. That night, Farhan sat alone in his library, a glass of 30-year-old Macallan in hand, contemplating the peculiar mathematics of his situation. Billions in assets, access to the world's best medical specialists, a corporate empire spanning 4 continents, and yet his life had been reduced to a countdown. 30 days? Perhaps less. He opened his laptop and began typing. By dawn, he had made his decision. The coastal town of Gwadar had been largely overlooked by Pakistan's tourism industry. It possessed neither the commercial bustle of Karachi nor the historical grandeur of Lahore. What it did have was anonymity and a small, unassuming cottage available for immediate, long-term rental on the outskirts of town, far from curious eyes. 3 days later, Farhan arrived with nothing but 2 suitcases, one containing clothes, the other his medications and medical equipment. He had left behind his usual identifiers, the tailored suits, the security detail, the ever-present technology. Here he was simply Farhan, a visitor seeking quiet. The cottage overlooked a stretch of pristine coastline where the Arabian Sea met land in a gentle rhythm. On his first evening, Farhan stood on the small wooden deck, watching waves crash against the shore as the sun descended. For the first time in decades, no phone buzzed in his pocket, no urgent emails demanded attention, no voices called for decisions. There was a strange poetry to it all, he thought. He had spent his life conquering time, maximizing efficiency, demanding immediate results, treating minutes like currency. Now time had finally conquered him, and all he wanted was to slow it down. 30 days, he whispered to the sea breeze. It wasn't enough to undo a lifetime of isolation, to correct the relationships he had sacrificed at the altar of ambition, or to experience all he had postponed for some day, but perhaps it was enough to find peace. That would have to be sufficient.